Welcome to Hanging on the Moon. We are back. Hopefully, we're back like for good. Last time we were on, Josh Lopez, we had a guest. We had Chris Walder was on, making his triumphant return to Condo on the Moon. But for whatever reason, Google was not having that show beyond letting us do it live. The taped version is now buried somewhere in Google Hangout world. I don't know. Josh has nothing to say about this. He doesn't care. This episode was buried forever.
Hold up. Give me a minute.
Josh, we are live now. We're on the air, you know.
I don't want to exit off.
What is going on?
I had the track for the show going on, and then it came on live, so...
Oh, I see. Some problems, some issues. Because we were talking fine, like, for 20 minutes before the show, and then Josh clams up when the show starts for real. So, it's an auspicious return, Josh. I don't know what's going on your end there. Are you ready to commence with the program? Or should I juggle? Like... Okay, now we have two Joshes. This is very confusing for me. Josh, are you there? Now there's three of you. This is just getting confusing, folks.
Okay, I think I'm here.
You think you're here?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, bud.
Yes, that was an unfortunate start to the program. Now we have two Joshes here. One talks and one is just your pitcher. Anyway, welcome. As we said, technical difficulties on the last show. Apparently.
Hey, that's what happens when you forget to exit out tabs for a live show.
Yeah, apparently.
I was sharing it to the good viewers of the show before we came on here. My bad, folks. It's all good. But we're ready to rock. We got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. Yeah, I know. I don't know what happened last week. I mean, they kind of pulled a December to December on this.
Actually, it was a couple weeks ago, because last week I just was tied up with some stuff, so we didn't do this again. But, yeah, I don't know. The Gremlins played that show. The first ever three-way for Condo on the Moon was ruined by Google Hangout. We're very upset. We may have a class action lawsuit. We're not sure. But we'll figure it out. Let's talk some pro wrestling, though. It has been a couple weeks since we talked, but I think we'll just stick with the news of this week and what's been going on. Raw is kind of back down in the dumps. I'm not really loving what they're doing. The slow burn to Hell in a Cell marches on. They decided to forego having our Ambrose Cena match on the actual pay-per-view, and we got it this week instead. The only thing I can say about Raw is at least they got it right, because I was fearful they would not get it right and Dean Ambrose actually wouldn't get to face Seth Rollins. I could see the WWE doing this. That's how little faith I have in this company. They did at least get it right. We get Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, but for all the fans that are excited about that, you also get Randy Orton and John Cena. So, you know, the good with the bad, I guess, Josh.
Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. You know, it was kind of funny, like, after Raw, I did a little research as far as how many times Cena has took on Randy Orton in a match. So, I think overall they had about, around 74 matches. In pay-per-view matches, including the one coming up, will be 24 matches. So, yeah, it's been a lot of times. I think one-on-one they competed, about 7 times on pay-per-view. But, yeah, I think they made the right decision. People want to see Ambrose against Rollins. I think it's the right choice. You know, it's kind of funny you said the slow burn. It's kind of interesting because past Hell in a Cell pay-per-views only had like 2 weeks to build to get to that pay-per-view. This this one had 5. So yeah, today's society where you want the instant gratification, yeah, that wasn't gonna help out anybody.
Yeah, apparently they've thrown away this whole concept of long-term booking because the first 3 weeks leading up to this pay-per-view, they basically threw away. I mean, we're just starting to get matches now, and the pay-per-view is only a couple weeks away. Maybe they think that the new audience now for wrestling, with social media and everything, they don't have the attention span to remember 5 weeks ago, which that might be true, actually. I don't know. I do know the hottest thing on social media and the internet right now is actually something involved with the WWE, but something they had nothing to do with, which is their wrestlers RKOing, super kicking, and now stunnering just unsuspecting victims on the Twitter and on what's that thing called, Vine. Yeah, they're all over the place. Randy Orton is RKOing giraffes, people. This is great. I think this is awesome. I want to see the Young Bucks have their own now. I want to see Kevin Steen package pile driving people. I really want to see this expand and move on. But, you know, it all started with Randy Orton, and Randy Orton just, it's funny. Randy, he's actually denying he took this easy contract that was rumored that he had signed, and now he's a big viral social media superstar. Who would have thought, Josh?
You know, it's kind of cool. I really like these videos. I mean, the one with the giraffe had me crying, laughing for about 5 to 10 minutes. I think it'd be cool.
PETA will get your information after this podcast, by the way.
I think it'd be cool if they had a video of Brock Lesnar F5 being an elephant or something like that, or another shark. I think that'd be cool. But it's cool, man. You know,
Sharknado gives you all the footage you need for that, by the way.
These vines have given Randy Orton the steam back that he's lost over the last 8 months.
Yeah, I don't know. Randy Orton, he's a strange cat, that Randall Orton. He's always the same, yet I think our impressions of him change over time. He's the same. Yeah. We're the ones that change. That's what I think happens with Randy Orton. It isn't him, it's us. And we're getting to a point where I think we're liking Randy Orton again. Because I think a lot of people want to see Randy Orton not versus John Cena. I think they want to see Randy Orton and Seth Rollins. I think that's a feud that now, down the line, seems possible.
Yeah, I think that could happen at Survivor Series. I don't see why not. I think personally, for me, I know a lot of people would like to see the Ambrose and Rollins feud go out through the rest of the year. I also think at some point when Roman Reigns does come back, I think we'll actually have all 3 members of the Shield going after each other at once.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what we see the Shield doing. I don't know if that's too soon either. Like I think how I want to see them come back together is one of them gets the title, and then I want to see the triple threat. That's how I want to see the Shield reunion happen, personally. But who knows with that? Roman Reigns, obviously, he's out. His timetable to return is pretty standard and set in stone. Daniel Bryan's, however, isn't. And I don't know how you feel about this, Josh, but I'm getting to the point I'm worried for Daniel Bryan's career at this point. I mean, now there's talk he's going to have that second surgery again, and it doesn't sound good for Daniel Bryan right now. And I remember what happened with Stone Cold, and I remember what happened with Edge, and it all kind of seems eerily familiar to what those guys went through. And if I'm Daniel Bryan, I don't know how much of a career I have left at this point. And even if he does get back, his style is going to have to dramatically change when he does come back, because he can't be that same Daniel Bryan that we had when he left. There's just no way.
Yeah, I mean, I feel so bad for the guy. It's one of the oddest cases when it came to a guy winning or getting his moment, and then be completely taken away from him. You know, it's one thing after another. He had to get the surgery. His father passed away. Um, Another surgery. Kind of indecisive moments whether to get another surgery or not. I just feel bad for him, and even sometimes when they played it out on Total Divas, like kind of funny, find it funny where Ceno's like, "Oh, why couldn't you just get the surgery in the first place? You would have been back by now." It's odd, man. I feel bad for the guy. I mean, you're losing your feeling in your shoulders, and you never know if you're gonna be able to wrestle again. And it could have happened to a worse guy at this point. I mean, Brian was at the right moment at his career, and it feels like it's completely taken away from. I don't know if it's going to be at the end of his career right now over this injury. I just hope it doesn't.
But no, as time marches on, you have to worry and be concerned for his career and where things are heading with him. It really, it's kind of, I mean, people joked about how on Total Divas they made this into a storyline and kind of this whole idea of, oh my God, Daniel Bryan, what's he gonna do for like a living? How are he and Brie gonna have money and all this? And it was kind of ridiculous and nonsensical, but in a weird sort of way, it's kind of not. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think Daniel Bryan's broke, but uh, he definitely his earning income for the future seems rather limited right now. I would think, based on his injury and stuff like that. So it's not good news for him, and I genuinely feel concerned. I know on the Bauer and Pollock show, Court Bauer was talking about, you know what, with Daniel Bryan at this point, I'm almost apt to say, you know what, chill out, Daniel Bryan, get your surgery done, and we're going to hope that you can return the night after WrestleMania. Don't even worry about WrestleMania. Because, I mean, at this point, it just seems almost better because who knows when he's going to be back, and all he's going to do when he does come back is be a hindrance to whoever they're trying to build in his absence, probably Roman Reigns, and they don't need that right now. I mean, Roman Reigns might have Dean Ambrose to deal with too, because Dean Ambrose, by the time Roman is ready to come back, I think Dean Ambrose is going to be in a similar position to how Daniel Bryan was last year this time, because everyone is loving Dean right now, and rightfully so. I think Dean's doing some tremendous stuff.
Yeah, I think he's doing some tremendous stuff right now. Here's my thing I wanted to ask you. It's kind of interesting how Punk left with Kane choke slamming him through the table at the Royal Rumble, and we haven't seen him since. And then he leaves the company, and then now Daniel Bryan gets injured after his match with Kane at Extreme Rules. I think that's the reason now I finally found out why people hate Kane so much. Kane is responsible for everybody's two favorite wrestlers being out of action.
See, you were listening to me and Walter. We're thinking of coming up with a new segment called Kane for the podcast tomorrow. So, yeah, I never thought of it. No, my issues with Kane aren't to do with that as much as they're just. I'm tired of him. I want him to go away. I want him to retire. He deserves to retire. The Undertaker deserves to retire. Like, why are people... Let him be a grandpa and have his photo taken with Michelle McCool. It's okay. I'm cool with it. He's earned the right to go away. And by the way, you brought up his name. So is CM Punk. I agree with CM. CM Punk surfaced. I was going to bring this up, but now he's out on the table, so we'll bring it up. He was on Colt Cabana's podcast today, and one of the few things he did say was he was mad at the person that took his picture at the Apple store, and I agree with him. Why can't CM Punk go out in your city, Josh, and buy himself an iPhone 6? Why do people have to snap his picture? Why can't they just leave him alone?
Well, CM Punk is one of those type of guys like a Michael Jordan and a Derrick Rose here in the city, man. You know, Chicago, even though they have the tendency to be in a bandwagon city, they latch on to people that made a significant impact in the city. And I feel bad for Punk. And it's kind of interesting you brought up that podcast since Dave Prazak was the special guest host for Colt. I actually discussed an interview Dave Prazak a couple weeks ago on my radio show. That's pretty cool that you brought that up. Yeah, it's it's weird. You know, a guy can't even walk out of his front door without somebody taking a picture of him. I mean, a picture of his wedding got leaked out.
Yeah, and some people were mad at Punk about that and said he was being like a jerk and all this. No, you know what? If I went out of my way to make my wedding a personal, private affair,
Yep.
and there's photos leaked out on the internet, you're damn right I'd be pissed off, and I'd be right to be pissed off. So I don't have any problem with it. CM Punk is just like, it's ridiculous, and you know, it's just getting ridiculous. I mean, the whole idea, oh yeah, we might as well get to this now. We're gonna make a transition here. Of course, TNA was making a big offer to CM Punk. Now, Josh, stop me if you've heard this before. Your girl, Dixie Carter, apparently big news. She's going to make a signing that is going to shock everybody. Who is that signing going to be, Josh? Tell us.
Chris Hero.
Chris Hero would not shock anyone. Come on now.
Okay,
Who's this big earth-shaking signing?
You know, a lot of people talk about like Carlito or Shelton Benjamin being some big, massive surprise return or whatever. I don't know, man. Maybe like Chris Masters or something. I mean, they got a new fetish for these random steroid WWE guys.
You see, here's my take on it. You've had Hulk Hogan. I mean, does it get any bigger ex-WWE than that? I mean, I think the only name that she could honestly shock us with is CM Punk. And it's not going to be him. So I have no idea what Dixie's talking about. Here's an idea for Dixie, though. I really would recommend that you get yourself a television deal before you worry about who you're signing and not signing. Because if you don't have one of those, it doesn't matter who you think you can sign and not sign. No one's coming if you don't have a television program to come to.
Hey, but you think if it was Punk, like bringing in that whole WGN thing, since it's the Chicago-based television market, plus that's the home of the Cubs, I'm just throwing that out there.
You can throw it out there. But the whole idea of WGN, at least from what I've heard, regardless of if they're going to hook up with TNA, which would be a terrible move for WGN, but the idea is to get away from that whole Chicago feel. They want to be a national network now, and that would not be bringing in a guy like CM Punk and TNA Wrestling. That's very Chicago with Punk and wrestling. Just, I don't know. I just don't see them. I'd be more inclined to, if I was WGN, work on a syndication deal with Sinclair and get ROH wrestling.
Here's my thing.
That would make much more sense to me.
Here's my thing. I don't know what TNA is. I don't know what market are they playing to, because one period of time they're in Florida, another period they're in Nashville, another period they're going to try to tour around. So it's either you're a Southern Territory or you're trying to be a whole nationwide brand. I don't know what their audience is. That's problem number one. Number two, you keep on bringing back these mid-card WWE guys and expecting them to be major main event guys for your company and expect big ratings out of it. I mean, last night, they bring Brodus Clay as Tyrus, as EC3's bodyguard. Okay, we're going to get you ratings for that one.
Hey, Brodus has experience in being a bodyguard. He can pull that off. That's Snoop Dogg. He can pull that off. That's okay. That's within Brodus' wheelhouse. But again, it's ex-WWE this, ex-WWE that, ex-WWE blah, 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 blah.
That was WCW's problem. Why do you think the whole NWO worked?
Well, yeah, but they were at least taking guys that had stuff left. That would be my take on that. But my point is this: whenever you see a guy from Ring of Honor, if he's been in the WWE, it's never mentioned, or is rarely mentioned, or is mentioned kind of as well, you know where he's been, but we're not going to say it. They never mention it, and I think that's the route you go. I mean, they had Jamie Noble in there after he'd been with the WWE. They have Matt Sydal, who's just made his way there and is apparently going to be booked on Ring of Honor's Final Battle. So that'll be interesting to see. And apparently a guy who, you know, was out for so long, but apparently can still go in the ring and still get it done. And but my point is, they don't reference that stuff in ROH. They're not looking like they use their affiliation to the WWE much more smarter than TNA does. And the one thing that ROH can say that TNA cannot say is, oh yeah, by the way, guys who've been in this company, they've actually gone on to be pretty big deals in the WWE. TNA cannot say that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think it's going to come to a point where this is going to be a whole pull over our rug kind of thing where they get all back with Jeff Jarrett and TNA transitions to Global Force Wrestling. So, I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know what's going on with Global Force Wrestling, but I do know this. Jeff Jarrett becomes part of the Bullet Club, and AJ Styles loses his title. You figure it out. Jeff Jarrett, not good for people's careers. But we'll see what...
I found it funny that Jeff Jarrett was out there the same week Bound for Glory when they were taping it out there.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, here, let's put it this way. Lucha Underground's getting off the ground before Global Force Wrestling, and I think I heard about Global Force Wrestling long before I heard about Lucha Underground.
Yeah, that looks pretty cool. I saw the trailer a couple times. I saw an interview Conan done. Of course, the great podcast he does, MLW. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I mean, John Morrison's going to be on there. Former NXT diva Maxine in there. I think John Morrison's in there as well. So, yeah, that's pretty cool.
No, don't mention John Morrison. No, he's got heat. He's got heat with Canada's greatest export and my personal favorite diva of the decade and basically best women's wrestler ever in the history of the world, Trish Stratus. So screw him. Screw John Morrison, Johnny Mondo, or whatever the hell he's being called this week.
I wrestled The Undertaker and John Cena.
Whatever. Screw it. I don't care. No. That was more fake rage, but he does have heat with Trish. That is real. Let's talk a little ROH while we're on the subject of them. Big news for them this week, obviously. Final Battle, virtually a sellout at this point, which is good news. That's not surprising. But they're also going back to live pay-per-view, which had been the rumor for months, pretty much even before their first pay-per-view. The word was kind of out there that if this goes well, the next one will be Final Battle, and that is in fact the case. Not at Hammerstein Ballroom like normal. They've actually moved to another venue called Terminal 5, I think it's called, or Terminal something. Point being, this venue, it's actually bigger than Hammerstein, so they have like 3,000 or something for this venue, so it'll be interesting. I don't know what it'll be like for television.
Is that one on pay-per-view or iPay-per-view?
No, on traditional pay-per-view, as well as iPay-per-view. All the traditional pay-per-views are also iPay-per-views as well for Ring of Honor. Okay. Last I checked, anyway. I'm going to be talking with Court Bauer between now and Final Battle, but I'm pretty sure I've got that right. So, good for ROH. And of all the three companies, I mean, ROH has had some bumps in the road too, and who knows what's going on with Michael Elgin and that whole thing. I mean, Michael Elgin now has changed his Twitter, no more ROH in his Twitter, and apparently he's doing some kind of shoot interview in a couple days. I don't know what's up with that, but aside from Michael Elgin issues and some visa issues for a couple people, and Kevin Steen leaving, actually, it sounds like they've had a lot of issues, but comparatively speaking to TNA and WWE, ROH is much better off from where they started 2014 to where they are right now. TNA cannot say that. WWE cannot say that.
Here's what I wanted to talk about with the whole ROH thing. I'm not really sure what they're going to do for Final Battle. I mean, you could do many things. I mean, you could have another match with AJ and Adam Cole. I don't know if the whole Matt Sydal thing is going to turn into him being fighting for the title or whatever. They could do a four-way where it could be Jay Briscoe, Adam Cole, who else? Adam Cole, Jay Briscoe, AJ Styles, and ACH. I mean, they need to figure out how they're going to structure out this card because, I mean, it's cool they got the decade or the complacency as they call them. You still got the House of Truth, but I think the Kevin Steen loss and plus Silas Young's injury kind of messed them up as far as their flow with their storylines. But I think ROH has been consistent as opposed to where TNA and WWE has been as far as their shows are. They're not as much oversaturated as most companies, but I don't know what they're gonna do with their card as far as Final Battle is concerned.
Yeah, well, the big question hanging over that card will be obviously the future of two of the members of the Kingdom, in Adam Cole and Michael Bennett, and in turn Maria Kanellis, who, by the way, now the lovely bride and wife of Michael Bennett. Congratulations to those two kids on getting married and that coming off without a hitch. So good for them. But both those guys, their contracts are coming due sometime in December, late December, early January. So based on that and based on where they're heading, I think will definitely determine what they're doing at Final Battle and how you're going to book that card. I mean, at this point, I think people would be stunned if Adam Cole is back. Because I think everyone sees Adam as the next big star to make that jump to NXT. And rightfully so. I mean, he's a tremendous talent. He's really good. And he's still fairly young. I mean, this is the time for Adam Cole to make that jump. And there's so many guys that he knows and has worked with in that NXT system right now. I think WWE would be foolish not to have him as part of their mix come, early 2015.
Is there any guys from the roster you think TNA will go after, or do you just think because the fact that some of the guys on the roster from NXT do have that connection with ROH, it's more of the guys that are going to try their best to get into developmental?
It all depends on how TNA's situation plays out, I suppose. And, a lot of guys have not had positive experiences in in TNA that have been part of that ROH locker room. A guy like Jay Lethal comes to mind. I mean, I don't think his TNA experience was all that great. I mean, he got to do some cool things, but at the end of it, he kind of got a raw deal, I thought. And, I don't know. Like, TNA, they have to get their own house in order, like, first and foremost. If they don't have a television deal, they've taped television up till November 18th. After that, they got nothing. And they're not planning on doing anything either until 2015. Like that's been out there in all the news reports. I don't think that's fiction. They have no plans to run another show for the rest of this year. If they don't have television, it's over. Like, it really is. It's done.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think TNA does have themselves to blame, but I also think it has to add to the fact that the fans and the way society as a whole has changed. I mean, back in the day, a lot of people had ways to get a box. They used to call it the black box, where you could watch WWE or ECW pay-per-views for free. And now you see a lot of people streaming the shows on the internet. I think it also has to do with the fans too with TNA. I mean, you don't see a lot of people wearing TNA T-shirts or repping TNA gear in random places like you do see a WWE fan. And it's as much as the company is to blame, the people they put into position at higher power with creative or championships or this or that, it also has to do with the fans too. It's weird how TNA has dropped so far year after year after year, and I feel bad for them. I want TNA to succeed, but at the end of the day, us as fans, we gotta play our part too if we want these companies to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, merchandising, they've done a terrible job. Like, promotion, terrible job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not even, like, Ring of Honor does a better job in both those areas than they do in terms of merchandising and in terms of like, promotion. Like, it's not even close, and it's like, there's just so many things. It's to the point, TNA is just to the point where people may say I'm mean about this and whatever. It's fine. But I'm just to the point, I'm over it. I'm like, it's like a dying animal to me. Put it out of its misery and get it out of. I don't want to see it anymore. Like, I know they've been having good shows lately, and I don't doubt that. But it's too late to me. It's over. And if there's not a future, why am I going to invest in something that I know doesn't have a future? And right now, until otherwise proven, TNA doesn't have that. They don't have a future as far as I'm concerned.
I just think with these companies, especially for TNA and ROH, and whenever Global Force Wrestling decides to do something, I think they need to find a way to take the internet away from what's actually going on with the business of wrestling. Because I think it's way oversaturated right now. I mean, not only with the shows, like the ones we do, like we keep it professional, like other shows, but like internet shows, internet streaming sites. Um, I mean, they even got stuff with the network that's even showing on wrestling channels now. It's the internet's taken away from the business more than people think about. I'm not talking about the complaining about fans or whatever. I'm just saying as far as business wise.
Yeah, but you've got to come up with a different business model,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean that's just it. Like, piracy's going to happen. Things like that are going to happen. It's just the reality of 2014. I mean, music went through this way back in the day with like Napster and things like that. So, they found a way to make it work for them. They had to reduce the prices of a lot of things and make things much more economical. And I think as much as we joke around with the $9.99 business with the WWE, I think that is a key element of what they're doing, is making a price point where, let's say you are one of those people who, I'm not going to spend the money for their pay-per-views. In all honesty, I'm sorry, TNA isn't worth what they're charging. Like, they charge for Bound for Glory, I think, up here in Canada was something like $45, something like that. I don't know what it was down in the States. You can tell me in a minute. But, I'm not paying that for a pay-per-view. I wouldn't pay that for a WWE pay-per-view right now, let alone a company that I don't know if it's going to be here in 2015. And I think, the price point is a thing. Ring of Honor, in contrast, they were a little more expensive, $24.99. Okay, I can live with that. But WWE, they've gone that next level and gotten a $9.99 and just made it so cheap that, yeah, you can steal this stuff or you can go around the things, but wouldn't you rather just have something that you can count on and bank on is going to be there for you? And that's why one of the biggest things about that network was making sure it was secure and it worked right, because that whole argument gets washed away if it didn't. So far, so good with that. I mean, there have been some glitches here and there, but I think from a technical standpoint, the WWE network has held up fairly well. But, it's just, you've got to find different ways to do it nowadays and make your money. And, I mean, WWE has attempted to do that with various things, some successful, some not. And it's just, that's the sign of the times, and that's how it goes. I mean, it's the same thing with everything. I mean, from a standpoint of someone who's a writer today, how many sites are just leeching off of the fact that they can get people to write for free and not pay for content?
Yeah.
It isn't right, but it happens, and that's the reality of the world we live in. So people have to figure out a way to earn a living and earn an income, no different for any wrestling company.
I think this is a great discussion because I've been trying to talk about this kind of stuff on my show and how wrestling can evolve from all facets of the business. With the TNA pay-per-view, with your question earlier, I went to a friend of mine's. He has a restaurant that was airing the show, so I watched it there. But the price here in the States was about $40. And to pay for that, that's not necessary. I mean, you barely put on a card that didn't even make sense with the storylines that was going on with your show, and a main event that should have been like the third or fourth match of your show was your main event.
Well, let's tell it like it was. Bound for Glory was embarrassing. If that, rightly or wrongly, it gets thought of as their WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
If WrestleMania ever was that bad, I can only imagine what the internet would look like. They would just flip out. It would be unreal. So, I mean, that's your marquee event, and that's how it came off. I don't know what's happening at Final Battle for ROH. I have no inside information. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I got news for you. Just knowing the people that work in Ring of Honor, no way their show is going to be like that. Their show is going to do its damnedest to entertain their fans, and that's ultimately, at the end of the day, why I like ROH. The effort is really put in there. Even like for the Toronto pay-per-view that I was at, they did not have ideal circumstances for that pay-per-view. But they rolled with it. They made the best of it. And you know what? At the end of the day, it was a pretty entertaining show, and I didn't feel like I wasted my money in going to watch it. And that's the thing. With the name on the ticket, TNA, that name has no value anymore. That's the problem. They have devalued it, and every time Dixie opens her mouth and comes up with these stupid statements like, oh, we're going to sign this big, huge guy that no one thinks we can get, it just devalues it more. I mean, you remember Ask Dixie? That was a huge embarrassment, and it went on for like a week. It was a running gag.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I totally agree. I mean, I know we'll transition to maybe some more WWE stuff after this, but just going back to the thing I was trying to say, yeah, you know, you brought up the thing about how, like, now there's people doing wrestling websites where they're just basically taking everything from what Dave Meltzer says or whatever you find from PWI Insider. I mean, there's nothing original about wrestling today. I mean, you can see whether it's wrestling websites or shows. I mean, if you've seen something, you've probably already seen it already. That's why, I mean, there's nothing about wrestling that I've noticed from all the companies that I've seen any evolution with what's going on in today's society.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's kind of, see, I come from covering the NBA where, you know, we're all covering the same game, but obviously my take on a basketball game is different from your take on a basketball game, is different from someone else's, and that's reflected, I think, in the stories that get out there. Now, at the end of the day, it's the same game. We all watched it. We all were there, but we all take away different things. Maybe I thought DeMar DeRozan had a hell of a game for the Raptors, but someone else watching that game said, yeah, he scored a lot of points, but he had some flaws and his defense wasn't that great. And you get all these different ideas. I find with wrestling, it's a lot of rumors that never pan out to be true, and no one ever owns up to that. Yeah. I mean, by God, if a rumor comes out, I don't ever remember anyone apologizing to me that CM Punk did actually not show up when they said he was going to show up this time. No one apologizes. They just roll on to the next rumor, and it's like, you know, it is what it is. But I was more referring to like sites like Bleacher Report and that What Culture site. Like, they're paying next to nothing for the content that they're getting, and that's kind of world we live in. And it makes it hard for people, trying to earn a living by covering stuff. And it's the same. I was making the comparison to the same rules apply for companies like WWE, Ring of Honor, TNA. Yeah, there's piracy. Deal with it. That's basically what I'm saying. I mean, it's not right. I'm not endorsing it. I'm not saying people should do it. But here's the reality. People are going to do it.
I agree. It's just a lot of things that are out of our control now. But, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, like, I think the thing with Ring of Honor, because I feel so strongly, I want to give them my money. Like, that sounds terrible. Ring of Honor, I mean, don't watch this. But I love the company that much that I feel good about putting money in their pockets. Because they give me a product that I enjoy and that I'm thankful to be a part of. And, maybe it comes down to that old thing called customer service, a lost art. We live in a world, Josh, where, I don't know if some people your age and maybe a little older realize tips are not just something that you were supposed to get. You're supposed to actually, like, have exceptional service for that. You're supposed to go above and beyond to get a tip. Now I know when the pizza guy comes to my house, he's got his hand out, and even if he's 15 minutes late, he still thinks he should get a tip. No, that's not how the world's supposed to work, or at least it wasn't.
Yeah. I just think it's two things. I think, as much as people think that wrestling companies are listening to their fans, some of the companies don't. And to me, I mean, at the same time, what the fans want, when I'm going to transition to the WWE side here, they don't know what they want. I can tell you right now, every time I'm watching a Raw and I'm on Twitter, I'm seeing, oh, we want change, we want this. I ask them, what do they want? Oh, I want the Attitude Era back. I want WWF back. I mean, make up your mind. You want change or you want to go back to the way things were in the past? I mean, come on now.
Well, yeah, but it can be both.
You need to make up your mind, though. You need to make up your mind with what you want. I mean, yeah, sometimes especially when you're a corporate company for the WWE, like I was saying, some of you guys in the three-way thing, there's nothing that I know about right now that the WWE are doing that's taken out of their way due to sponsors and partners and all that. I don't think WWE is doing what they actually really want to do right now because it's out of their control. It's the fact that they're a public company now, and they can't do things based on wrestling standards now because wrestling doesn't sell to a public economy here in the States. It just doesn't work.
I think it's more a case of they're not pushed to push the limits. Like, let's face it, as much as anyone could love TNA or Ring of Honor, neither of those companies is pushing the WWE to do a thing because they're not a legitimate number 2 challenger. They're not stealing away the WWE's audience. What's stealing away the WWE's audience, quite frankly, is their own product has gotten stale and just something that people aren't fans of. And I think you can have change and want. I think what a lot of people want, if you can narrow it down to something, is they want something that's a lot more adult-oriented and doesn't completely insult their intelligence. And I think there's ways to do that. I think why Dean Ambrose has caught on so huge so quickly is people see Dean Ambrose as a guy who kind of delivers what they're looking for. He's got different things about him that people like. Obviously, he can go in the ring. That's first and foremost with your internet fan base. If you can't wrestle, don't even bother showing up. They want nothing to do with you. But he also has kind of an attitude and an edge to him. And I think Dean Ambrose is one of these guys. He reminds everyone of somebody else. Like, some people look at him and they see Pillman. Other people look at him and they see Stone Cold Steve Austin. Other people look at him and they see, Roddy Piper. I'm one of those guys. I think he's the closest thing we've seen to Roddy Piper since Roddy Piper was doing his thing back in the 80s. But everyone sees their own little piece of Dean Ambrose, and he's a really interesting guy in that way. And I think at the end of the day, people just want something that's a little more entertaining. And what they don't want, and no one's going to be shocked by what I'm going to say next, they don't want John Cena. It's been 12 years. They're tired. They're fed up. At least go on a 6-month vacation. Take Nikki Bella. No one will miss her either. Go to Hawaii. Go around the world. And give everyone a break, including himself. Because at the end of the day, I'm sure he's just as burned out on doing it as we are on him.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with the whole Cena thing. Guys never took more than a 4-month vacation. I mean, I remember sometimes when Austin and some other famous stars back in the early 2000s were out, they would used to play like video packages when it was their time to come back. I mean, I remember when Triple H was out with the quad injury in '01, and then remember when he came back with that whole video package before he came back for the Royal Rumble, and he got one of the biggest receptions, and everybody was happy to see him again. Now you see John Cena, and you already know when he's coming back. So it's like, that's another thing I noticed about the Cena thing. I told everybody, I'm not a Cena fan. I'm not going to go out of my way to defend him, even though he does all this make-a-wish stuff. His character doesn't connect with me personally. I think it's cool that you want to be positive and all that, but nothing he does on wrestling standards appeal to me. But I'm not going to go out of my way to say, oh, John Cena is the only reason why wrestling sucks. I choose to ignore things that bother me. So if there's something that I don't like, I'm not going to harp on it. I'll wait till things over and then watch what happens next. Now with the Dean Ambrose thing, I agree with you. He does remind me of Roddy Piper. But does comparing somebody to the past, and I'm going to link this to your article, does comparing Dean Ambrose to an Austin or a Punk or Roddy Piper get him any money? I mean, when I see Dean Ambrose, I see Dean Ambrose. I don't look at him as Roddy Piper or Stone Cold. I'd rather see him as himself.
No, and that's true too. He is his own person, but I think it doesn't hurt, especially with fans that have tuned out to the product, that aren't with us anymore. If they hear about a guy that people are saying reminds them of Stone Cold or reminds them of Roddy Piper, that's a good way to get them to turn on the TV just to see who the heck this Dean Ambrose guy is. And then maybe they don't agree with the comparison, but they like what they see. So, I mean, I think it's good in that way. And I think the article Josh is referencing, people might not have seen it because it went up just before we started recording this, but I got into this whole thing. There was the rumor, we talked about wrestling journalism and how it might not be up to snuff. Oh my God, Josh, they got another thing wrong. We screwed up. We're sorry. Steve Austin apparently isn't coming back for WrestleMania 31, as was much reported last week. And it got me to thinking, what happens if the WWE goes and they call up all these old timers, so to speak. They call up The Rock. The Rock has a movie. Austin, no, still don't want to come back. Shawn Michaels, nope, not getting me on there. That's not happening. And they run through the list of usual suspects, so to speak.
Yeah.
What do they do then? Because they've relied on these Band-Aid solutions for so long, and that's the thing that I'm worried they're getting to a point where they're going to run out of Band-Aids, and they haven't done enough to build their own guys up to imagine a WrestleMania card with no outsiders in matches that are former wrestlers. We haven't seen that in a long, long time.
I think like the closest we got to that was WrestleMania 27. I mean, I think that was the first part where Triple H and Undertaker were becoming the part-timer guys. Yeah, you had The Rock there, but he was the host, so like he wasn't really.
Yeah, but Austin was there too,
Well,
and
I guess
yeah.
that's referee. I get you from that point. I think going back to what you're saying about insulting people's intelligence, I just think, when I see like that, when people say bring back the attitude era, so I was thinking like, okay, bring everybody back. Whoever's able to go compete, if they're not 300 pounds and sitting on their couch and they lost all their money, bring them out too. Have them out on Raw for a month. And you see that on TV each week. That's insulting to people's intelligence. Seeing people from the past, that's insulting my intelligence. I mean, cool. I'm a fan of Brock Lesnar. I think he adds value due to the stuff he did with MMA, and that's cool that he did the whole crossover thing. So I'm fine with Brock. But back to what you're saying with your article, I mean, is anybody going to really buy that any of these guys from the Attitude Era or even the 80s could actually win any of these matches or these dream matches that people come up with? I'd rather see something where one of your big three matches at WrestleMania was something with Randy Orton against Dolph Ziggler or Seth Rollins against whoever. I mean, I'd rather see the guys that are going on right now than the guys I seen when I was a kid.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, and I didn't mention this in that article though, but when these guys come back, they don't want to work with the younger guys necessarily. They think that's kind of below their pay grade, so to speak. And, like Stone Cold Steve Austin has said many times that pretty much the only match he wanted to come back for, and he's made that pretty clear, I think, vaguely off and on, is to face CM Punk. He had no interest in anything else. And the only way he was coming back for that is if there was a heck of a lot of money on the table. And I respect that. Steve Austin is being a businessman, and he wants to get the best deal for Steve Austin that he can, because he knows he's not going to do this too many more times. He's got maybe one more match left in him, and I think he knows that. But again, it gets to, like, people have this fascination with, they want to see Sting versus The Undertaker. That would have been great maybe 5 years ago. It definitely would have been 10 years ago. But in 2014, they're just taking away two spots from two guys that you could be building to be bigger stars for the next WrestleMania. That's how I look at it. And I think once people saw a match like that, they would get all hyped up in the build-up, and they would say the match sucked.
Yeah. I mean, like I was saying, bringing back the roster from the Attitude Era and do it now, people still be complaining about it because they want to be the same. You want one thing, but it's not going to be the way you expect it to be. I mean, the promo packages for Sting and Undertaker would be cool, but the finished product, who knows? Maybe somebody would be like, oh, this is boring. Oh, let this match end already. So, like, if you've seen Sting and Undertaker, I'm not going to dare insult Bret Hart or anything, but as far as wrestling quality, it could be as bad as Bret Hart against Mr. McMahon.
Oh, no, you can insult that all you like, and I'm Canadian. Bret Hart is the biggest mark for Bret Hart in the world. Of all the Canadian wrestlers, Bret Hart is not even in my top 5 because I just think I don't need to have him in my top 5. He's already put himself in so many top 5s. He doesn't need my help. But it's gotten to that point that it's just like, WWE has to start building stars. That's the one thing, and we're getting close to the end of our time, but the one thing that TNA's never been able to do, and WWE has been able to do, is build and create stars. TNA's never been able to do it. You can say what you want about AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, and a few other names, but in my mind, those guys already had built names for themselves in Ring of Honor before they ever got to TNA. Same thing for Samoa Joe. And by the way, condolences to him, who he just lost his father recently. And someone who's gone through that myself, tough thing to swallow at any age. But yeah, WWE, they know how to make stars, and I think they've got to realize that the stars they've already made are getting older. Like, just go check out Michelle McCool's Instagram. The Undertaker is not that guy anymore. And the same's true, like, Hulk Hogan, he wants to have a match again, and he wants to fight John Cena. Who wants to see that other than Hulk Hogan? At least, I'll say that, at least we progressed to the point as a whole wrestling community. The only person that wants to see Hulk Hogan fight again is Hulk Hogan. But we've got to start feeling that way about some other guys, too, because none of these guys are getting any younger.
Well, here's my thing. There's a point that I agree with you, but it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because you bring back the ROH kind of thing where, you knew what CM Punk was, you knew what Daniel Bryan was, you knew what Cesaro was, who Seth Rollins was, or any of these guys for the Indies, and then they go through the NXT process, and then they come back to the main roster, and then everybody wants them to be in the title feud once they come up. It's kind of weird, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and a lot of guys took about 5 to 6 years to get into that main picture storyline. I think nowadays, when you see people from NXT, you're so frustrated and nobody has patience for anything in wrestling today that you already want to see these guys in the main event feuds because you're already getting tired of what's going on already. So, are they building stars like they were back in the day? No. But I think at the same time, you have to give it some time. Whenever Finn Balor or Hideo Itami or Kevin Steen come up, yeah, people are going to be excited for it, but don't expect them to be going against whoever's the world champion at the time when they come up. I just don't see that happening. So that's my point of view. But I understand where other people are coming from, because sometimes where you would like to see a guy and you feel like he's at that point where he deserves to be in the main event, then he's scaled back because he worked with John Cena. And then, of course, whenever somebody faces John Cena, God forbid John Cena loses the match, or it's about to start World War III with the Steve Nation. And
Kevin Steen is beating John Cena. I will tell you that right now. His first match, he's coming in, he's beating Cena. No, you make a great point, and we're almost out of time. I think what the point is, though, and they always say wrestling's a reflection of society, and I think this is one of those cases. Society has had an ever-shrinking middle class, and I think wrestling fans' acceptance of what's known as the mid-card is almost null anymore. Take a guy like the Honky Tonk Man, who to me is the classic mid-card heel.
Yeah.
Today, Honky Tonk Man is not getting over the way he did back in the day, and it's because there's no tolerance for guys that are in that mid-card. We want to push, I think I said this with Walder on a podcast, we want to push and elevate them to levels that they're not ready for or they don't ever deserve necessarily. Like, here, Kofi Kingston, great wrestler, great guy, not the greatest promo in the world, classic mid-card babyface to me. But people want more for Kofi that just isn't there. And it's ridiculous to think that. Anyway, we are out of time. Hopefully this will have worked and you're watching this post facto. You can catch us live. We're playing around with the time, so we're not sure when. We'll get it all straightened out to a proper time. But thanks for joining us, and we'll be back hanging on the moon another time. Thanks to Josh. I'm James Borbath, and we're out of here.